So if you're an owner of the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 like I am, you may have noticed on this camera that there is a color profile called D-Log-M. And maybe you've wondered what that is, or maybe you know what that is, but maybe you're not sure how to get the best results with that. If you're not familiar with how to grade footage, today I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, and I'm going to show you how to get the very best results with D-Log-M. D-Log-M is a 10-bit color profile on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and the goal with D-Log-M is for you to be able to capture footage that's very flat without the Pocket 3 doing the grading for you. In other words, if you shoot in the normal color profile on here, the camera's going to bake in a certain look to the footage, and you're not going to be able to change that later on. And if you really want that flexibility to get the look that you're going for, and you really want it to fit a certain style, then you want to have footage you can grade later on, because you can really customize it to your liking and get some really good results. And no, I don't have any LUTs for sale. I'm not going to tell you need to buy anything.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious.
Today's video is all about showing you how to do this yourself in video editing software without needing to buy anything else. Now, the software I'll be using today is Adobe Premiere Pro, but if you have another video editor like Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve that you use, the steps are going to be similar, but the specific tools are going to be located in some different places in those video editing softwares. So do take note of that. I'm going to open Premiere Pro, and I'm going to create a new project. We're going to click New Project up here, and I'm going to call it Osmo Pocket 3 Grading. And I'm going to put this in a folder I have with sample clips on the desktop. And then we're going to click Create. So I'm going to just, first of all, set up a sequence here. I'm going to go under ProRes RAW, select 4K. And I'm going to select this one right here, the 4K 23.976. And up here for the frame size, we want to do 3840 by 2160. And the color space is going to be Rec 709. And then we're going to click OK. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import my sample clips. So I'm going to go here to File, Import. And I've got 3 different clips I'm going to show you the grading process on. So I'm going to open those up. So now that I've imported these clips, I'm just going to drop these right here onto the timeline. And so as you can see right now, clips don't look bad, but you'll notice the colors look a little bit washed out and kind of muted. And that's because D-Log-M is very flat like that. It's going to give you the freedom and flexibility to really bring out the details that you want to in the footage. So what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. So to do that, you go up to File, New, and select Adjustment Layer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drop that over top of our footage. You don't have to do the adjustment layer. You can edit each clip directly. But what this helps with is if you have like 100 different clips here, like I had the other day with sample footage from this hike, you can make the adjustments to that adjustment layer, and then you can drag that over top of all of your clips. And then the adjustment that applies to one clip is probably going to apply to most of your clips. So if you were in similar lighting scenarios, and you were in a similar setting like I was on a hike in the woods, the tweaks I make to this clip right here are probably going to apply to this one and this one as well. So after we've added that adjustment layer, you next want to confirm that you have the Lumetri Scopes option available up here. If you don't see that option there, what you want to do is you want to go up to Window, and you want to select Lumetri Scopes. It'll be really important to have that there, because that is going to be a key tool in a moment when we're doing the actual grading. So do make sure the adjustment layer is selected down here so that you are making the changes on the adjustment layer and not to the actual clip. After you've done that, you're going to go over here and you're going to select curves. And the first curve and the one that we're going to do most of our adjustments on is the white curve right here. And if you're not familiar with curves, basically these curves represent the entire color spectrum of this clip in the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights. And you see a bunch of lines that cross each other here. This zone down in here is the shadows. This zone in here is going to be the midtones. And this zone up here is going to be the highlights. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a dot by left clicking in each of these places where the lines cross horizontally and vertically, where this white line goes over them as well. And what we're going to do down here, we're going to click on the dot and we're going to drag it down a little bit. And while doing that, we're going to look at our Lumetri Scopes over here. And you're going to look at these lines here on the bottom. This is the entire range 0 to 100 of the data that's available in this footage. And what you want to make sure of is you want to make sure your lines do not go below the 0 there. So when they do, you're going to start losing data in your shadows, or if you clip above 100, you're going to start losing data in your highlights. And you don't want to do that. You want to get close to that, but you don't want to lose the data. So we're going to drag this down a little bit further, and I like that right about there. Now for our highlights, this image is a little bit tricky because of the lighting. So as you can see, some of these areas up here, like this tree right here, which is represented here, that is basically on the verge of being blown out to slightly blown out in this scene. But some of our other highlights over here are not blown out. There's still room to work with. So in this case, we might want to give this a little bit of highlights, but not much. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit to about right there. The midtones I'm going to leave alone on this line. But already you can see this did give us a lot of contrast in that footage. Next line we're going to adjust here. And this one is the red. The RGB stands for red, green, and blue. This is going to affect the red colors in this image. We're going to put our dots here, once again, where the lines cross. And I like to adjust the red one to give a little bit more of a cinematic look to the footage. What I like to do is I like to bring down the red a little bit in the shadows. And what you want to remember is subtle is key with this. You don't want to go extreme overboard. You just want to do a little bit of that fine tweak. And you can see here, it kind of gives that darker green tint to our footage. I like that color palette and feel and mood that it gives to the footage. And by the way, if you ever need to reset a line, just double click on one of the dots and it's going to take it back to where it was. But in this case, I do want to go back here, put 3 new dots, and I want to drag this down just a little bit to about right about there. And then up here, I want to drag this up to the highlights just a little bit. So if we take a look at the footage, that's what it looks like already. Really like how that looks. We put it over our other clip here as well. Really like how it looks there too. But we're not done yet. We're getting there though. What we're going to do is we're going to go back, and with D-Log M, unless I'm going for a different type of look, I usually don't adjust the green and the blue here, but it's the same thing. If you want to play with those lines, you can click, make the 3 dots, then do some dragging here. This is going to affect any of the greens in the footage. You can kind of see the impact that has. And then the same thing with the blues if you want to adjust that. But usually I just do the white and the red. So once I've done the curves there, I'm going to minimize that. And I'm going to go down here next to the color wheels and match section. I'm going to maximize that. And this is going to give you a little bit finer control over the color field to your shadows, your midtones, and your highlights. Typically, I don't do anything with the shadows, but I do like to adjust the midtones because the midtones are going to be where you often find skin colors. And it is a good idea to have the skin colors looking properly in your footage because any human subjects in there, you don't want them to have a green face, a blue face, anything that looks unnatural. So what I do here in midtones is I click on the plus and I drag a little bit up here into this reddish zone right here. So this one's not the best example. This clip isn't to show you how that affects a face, but if I go here to where I'm talking direct to the camera, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on the plus sign and go back. Before I made that adjustment, you can see I look kind of pale and kind of like a bluish green color on the skin there. So if you can see, dragging this up gives a much more natural tone to the skin. So basically you want to have a scene where you have a human in there and you want to grade it based on their skin. So once it looks good there, I sometimes will make a little bit of a tweak in the highlights as well. Sometimes I like to make those a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler, depending on the look you're going for. But oftentimes I'll leave the highlights alone as well, and I'll only mess with the midtones here. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. I'm just going to adjust the midtones. So we're going to go back and confirm it looks good with this clip. It does. And this clip as well. Skin tones look good. Colors, other details look great as well. So finally, we're going to go up here to the creative tab, and we're just going to do a little bit of fine tuning. So one thing I want to do is I want to add a little bit of sharpness because I did shoot this with low sharpness, and I think this would benefit from just a little bit. So I tried out 5 there, and 5, I like how that looks. Sometimes I'll go as high as 10. I feel like 10 makes it a little bit sharper than I like, so I'm going to stick with 5. And then final step I want to take is I want to add a little bit of saturation. So I'm going to go up to about 110 here, and I like how 110 looks. I don't like oversaturating my footage. I feel like it looks a little bit better. With a little less saturation, I feel like that makes it look more cinematic. So I'm going to check each of my clips here now. I like how it looks there, and I like how the saturation looks here. That is how you manually grade D-Log M footage from the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And then when it's time to export, let me show you my recommended export settings in order to optimize your video for YouTube. You're going to go here to export media. Let's give it a name, DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And make sure your format is set to H.264. Under video, click match source. And here, click render at maximum depth and use maximum render quality. And then down here for the bitrate encoding, I recommend selecting VBR1 pass. And for the target bitrate, YouTube recommends at least 45 megabits per second here. I usually do about 56. As long as you have at least 45 minimum, your footage is going to look good on YouTube in 4K. And then that's all you have to change. The rest of the defaults here should be good. And then we're going to click export. It's going to encode the sequence and then it's going to export it. If you're new to the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 and you want to learn more about how to set it up and the best settings that I recommend checking out this video right here.